Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling something really fascinating. It's a concept with, well, deep roots, but it's still shaping how people connect today. We're talking about the person of peace.
That's right. It's an
Uh-huh.
idea you can trace back to Jesus' instructions in Luke 10, actually. And what's really interesting is seeing how groups like, say, YWAM have found it incredibly practical when they're going into new communities, new cultures.
Yeah, it's not just theory, is it?
Not at all. It's very much a real-world strategy.
Okay, so our mission for this deep dive is to really get under the skin of this. Who is a person of peace? How do we, spot them? We're looking at quite a range of sources here.
We are. There's the biblical stuff, obviously Luke 10, parts of Acts like chapter 16,
Right.
but also personal stories, anecdotes from people involved in YWAM, and then observations from church planting movements all over. We're talking Middle East, South Asia, Africa, India. It's broad.
So we're really aiming for a practical understanding, yeah. Moving beyond just the abstract idea to see how it actually works on the ground. And like you said, it seems to almost turn some common ideas upside down.
It really does.
Yeah.
That whole assumption that we always have to be the ones laying all the groundwork first. This concept suggests, well, maybe God's already been working there.
Preparing someone.
Exactly. Someone who's uniquely ready, uniquely receptive.
Okay, let's dig into that. Our sources seem to agree on three main characteristics to look for. The first one is receptivity. What does that actually mean in practice?
Well, receptivity is basically, it's a real eagerness to connect, a desire, a readiness to build a relationship. The sources often point straight to Luke 10, verse 6, if the Son of Peace is there, your peace will rest on him. And the implication is pretty powerful. God might have already prepared this specific person.
Which is where it throws that curveball, right? At the usual then maybe harvest way of thinking. This sounds much more immediate.
Absolutely. The person of peace idea definitely leans more towards a harvest-first
Yeah.
approach. Think about the examples that pop up in the sources, Cornelius, Lydia, that jailer in Philippi.
Right, in Acts.
Yeah. What's really striking is you don't read about some long, drawn-out pre-evangelism effort with them. They just seem, well, ready, poised to respond.
So the key is actually looking for that person.
Yes, actively searching until you find this prepared individual. That's crucial.
Okay, so receptivity is number one. What's the second characteristic we need to understand?
The second one is reputation. And this is where it can get a bit surprising.
Oh.
How so?
Because the sources are pretty clear.
Yeah.
The reputation can be good or bad. The key thing isn't whether it's positive or negative. It's that they are known in their community. People know who they are.
That is interesting. So you're not necessarily looking for the most, respectable person on the surface.
Not necessarily. One source brings up that incredible example from Mark 5, the demon-possessed man.
Wow, yeah. Talk about a reputation, feared, isolated. Exactly. Terrible reputation. But after he meets Jesus, what happens? He becomes this person of peace. One source even uses that phrase, manure makes good soil.
Huh. That's memorable.
It is. And think about the impact later in Mark 7. Jesus goes back to the Decapolis where this man lived, and suddenly people are bringing others to Jesus. This former outcast became a channel of influence.
It really makes you pause and question your assumptions, doesn't it?
It certainly does. So first receptivity, then a known reputation, good or bad. What's the third one?
The third defining characteristic is referral.
Referral. Okay.
This basically means the person of peace has influence. They can sway others within their circle, their oikos, as the sources call it.
Oikos, meaning their household.
Yeah.
Or wider than that.
Yeah, household, family, maybe even their broader social network. They're described sometimes as a fish of reference.
A fish of reference. I like that image.
Me too. It captures that idea of someone others naturally look to.
Yeah, definitely. They're the ones who kind of turn first in their group. So if you connect with that one person,
you potentially reach their whole network.
exactly. It's about finding that key person in the community's social fabric.
Okay, so recapping. Receptivity, reputation, referral. Got it. Now, our sources also get into some really practical details, like things observed in actual church planting movements. What kinds of things stand out there?
Yeah, the practical observations are really insightful. One thing is that a person of peace often ends up doing something significant, something big for their community. It connects to that idea of bearing a lot of fruit, like the 100-fold fruit in Mark 4.
Makes sense. What else?
They often have a vision for their own people that's actually bigger, maybe more focused than yours could be. They just understand their context best.
That really rings true. That insider perspective is invaluable.
Totally. And they take ownership, a real sense of responsibility for their people. their tribe. Some sources even talk about it kind of Moses syndrome prayer,
Moses syndrome, what's that?
like this intense, almost desperate prayer for their people's salvation, a give me my people kind of cry. It shows a deep passion.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is. And often you find they have a personal story involving struggle, maybe sin, but also redemption. There's brokenness, but also humility, a servant heart, often empowered by the Holy Spirit. It's not about perfection.
No, it sounds like it's about genuine transformation.
Right. And sometimes that transformation itself fuels this urgency, maybe even a bit of anger, like, why didn't I hear this sooner? And that pushes them into bold evangelism. They embrace Jesus and immediately, open their homes, their oikos.
That image of opening the oikos seems really central.
It really is. Another interesting point from the sources is that they might operate with a level of security or conviction, even facing opposition, that might feel a bit uncomfortable to an outsider.
Okay.
And paradoxically, maybe they can actually be quite hard to find. It often takes real persistence, prayer, dedicated searching. And sometimes their first inkling of Christ might come through a dream or a vision, even before they fully understand saving faith intellectually.
Which just shows how God works in diverse ways, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And once they do come to faith, they often get this clear vision for their own people. And the key then is to release them. Let them follow the Spirit's lead. It's about empowerment.
So it sounds like finding them isn't always a walk in the park. Are there common roadblocks or barriers?
Yes. The sources mention a few key ones. One is called the tyranny of the good.
The tyranny of the good.
Yeah, basically getting so busy with lots of good, well-meaning activities that you miss the most strategic thing, finding that key person. You get distracted by good things, but maybe not the best thing.
I can see how that happens.
Time pressure is another one. Feeling rushed, needing to show results quickly, can short-circuit the patient searching required. And then there's just plain fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of rejection, maybe fear of stepping outside comfortable methods.
Those are very real barriers. Okay, so let's say you navigate those, you pray, you search, and you believe you've found a person of peace. What's next? It doesn't stop there, right?
No, absolutely not. The focus shifts then from finding to developing, building that relationship.
Right, based on trust and friendship.
Exactly. That's the foundation.
So what are the practical steps in that development phase?
Well, the sources lay out a few key actions. First, simply become a friend. Show genuine care, deep concern for them and their community. Build that trust. Practically, this means things like accepting hospitality graciously, like Jesus instructed in Luke 10, and spending regular time together, modeling your values.
So real presence, shared life. Makes sense.
Yeah. Second step, form a prayer triad.
A prayer triad.
The person of peace, you, and a prayer partner commit to praying together, specifically for lost people in their network. The aim is often to name, say, 9 individuals.
That's very specific.
It is. You covenant to pray daily, meet weekly, and eventually the idea is to visit those people you're praying for, invite them, maybe to study the Bible. That could be the start of the first small group, the first cell.
Okay. Very intentional. What's third?
Third, meet regularly to mentor. Share your heart, your vision, help them see their community through perhaps new eyes. Share what you know about, say, church planting through small groups. Equip them.
So you're passing on tools and understanding.
Exactly, which leads right into the fourth step. Be the coach. This is crucial. You are the equiver, the supporter, not the main player.
They're in charge.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The person of peace leads in their community. Your role is coaching, modeling, maybe from the background. You have to constantly reinforce it's their community. The goal is indigeneity, local leadership, not your leadership.
That idea of stepping back, empowering local leaders, it seems vital for anything truly lasting.
It's fundamental. And that ties into the final step. Have an exit strategy.
An exit strategy from the start.
Yes. Be upfront about it like Paul often did. Make it clear you won't be there forever. The sources even suggest setting a time frame, maybe less than 6 months, in some indigenous planning strategies for them to take the reins fully.
Get off the training wheels, so to speak.
Precisely. You want them fully leading. Now, there can be exceptions, like in places with really rapid population shifts where maybe a bit more external support is needed for longer.
Okay.
But the principle is strong. Prolonged external leadership can actually stifle multiplication and true local ownership. Empower quickly.
It all comes back to recognizing that God-prepared person and then equipping them to lead in their own context.
Exactly. David Watson put it, well, the person of peace is often God's chosen entry point. They're the ones who could open the door or make the introductions.
Okay, so wrapping up this deep dive. The person of peace concept really emphasizes that God is often already working ahead of us, preparing people, individuals who are receptive, known, influential. Finding them and then carefully developing that relationship seems to be a really powerful, effective strategy for engaging communities.
And it's worth remembering those surprising bits, too. Like, they might not be who you first expect. That demoniac example is so stark. And that whole harvest first idea really does challenge how we might typically approach things.
It definitely gives you a lot to think about. So for you listening, maybe consider the communities you're connected to. Are there people who sort of fit this description? That openness, that influence, being known. How might thinking about this change how you build relationships or how you see influence working? And maybe even ask yourself, could you be a person of peace for someone else right now? Definitely food for thought.